Welcome to the Stop Italian Sounding podcast, uncovering authentic Italian food. I'm your host, Robert Campana, and join me as we delve into the rich heritage of genuine Italian food, exploring its legends, history, and traditions. Through important tips and insightful interviews with industry professionals, you'll gain a deeper understanding of authentic Italian food. Welcome back, everyone, to the Stop Italian Sounding show, uncovering authentic Italian food. So, first of all, I just want to apologize for my little quote-unquote hiatus. I decided to take most of the month of August off from the podcast because I was preparing on going to Italy. Then I was there for about a week and a half. And then when I came back, I had to, of course, focus on getting back to school. And for those of you who don't know, besides running Stop Italian Sounding, I'm also a high school Italian teacher. So, of course, I had to prepare for that after my summer vacation. Anyway, now I'm back and I'm ready to talk about my favorite topic, Italian food. And I figured that for today's show, I'll recount a little bit about my time in Italy. Because if you do follow me on Instagram or on TikTok or on any of the social media platforms, then you probably saw a lot of the videos that I did post of my time when I was there. So, first of all, when I went, I took my parents over, and we also saw my brother and his fiance there as well, which, by the way, I should say congratulations to my brother and his fiance because they got engaged when we were there in Italy. So that was very nice to be able to see them. Anyway, before we went over to Italy, I told my parents that the only thing they had to do was show up, eat, and drink. That's it. And believe me, that's exactly what we ended up doing. So I rented a car and I did all the driving. Of course, I had to get my international driver's license, which, by the way, was very easy to get. So in case anybody is planning to drive in Italy or in Europe or in a lot of other different countries, you could always send me a message and I'll tell you the very easy way to get the international driver's license, at least here in the United States. Anyway, back to the trip. When we went to Italy, we landed in Rome. And of course, I made it a point to try some local Roman dishes. Since you know me and food, I absolutely had to try the 4 Roman pasta dishes, carbonara, gricia, amatriciana, which, by the way, was my absolute favorite, and cacio e pepe, dishes that I've had before, but when I go to Rome, I kind of want to eat them again for good reason. But it wasn't just pasta that we ate. We also ate things like baccalà fritto, which is fried codfish, delicious parmigiana, which is eggplant, and my absolute favorite dish. Literally, I could eat parmigiana every day of the week for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But in Rome, we also had other things like pizza romana, which is a typical Roman pizza, and Romans swear by it. They swear it is indeed better than the pizza napoletana. I personally will not get into the middle of that one because the pizza napoletana is amazing as well. So I'm not gonna pick sides. But anyway, we only spent about 2 days in Rome. And of course, since we were there only for 2 days, I couldn't eat possibly everything that they're known for because they're known for a lot of different things. There were things that I didn't try or I didn't eat when I was there. So I guess it's another reason to go back. But anyway, during my time there, we ate at a few good places, and I'd like to make a special shout out to those 2 places. One that we ate was called, one restaurant that we ate at was called Romane, and the other one was called Poldo e Gianna. Both great places with traditional Roman dishes. If you want more information, I can give you that information if you were to message me on Instagram. But Romane, one of the places that we ate at, is more of a trattoria style, so the vibe was much more familiar and casual. And honestly, this was my favorite because the food tends to be more hearty with, let's just say, more of a laid-back feeling. And that's what I really like, especially when I go to Italy. And this is always, where we had probably the best carbonara. Anyway, the other place that we ate at that I want to give a special shout out to is called Poldo e Gianna. Again, not a huge place and absolutely amazing food. In fact, they said that they literally only shop for local products in the area and don't even have a freezer at the restaurant because they serve the food as fresh as possible. So any food that can last, for a day or 2, they'll serve. So it's literally the maximum amount of freshness when it comes to this restaurant. So this is where we actually had the baccalà fritto, so the fried cod, and I personally at that time had also the gricia, so the pasta alla gricia. In this case, it was rigatoni. The gricia is one of the 4 Roman pastas that the city of Rome is known for. So when we were in Rome, I, of course, indulged in a lot of pasta, not because I love pasta, which is something that I do love, but also because I had to also capture the videos for future Stop sounding videos and content. But I do assure you that it was well worth the sacrifice. So anyway, after visiting Rome, we ventured down to the Amalfi Coast. After we rented a car, we drove down and we made Amalfi our home for about a week or so and drove along the coast to visit different little towns, which was quite the experience, let's just say. So, first, a comment about the driving. Guys, if you're planning on driving along the Amalfi Coast, make sure you're a calm and composed driver because the roads are so small and challenging to navigate through, especially if you're coming from the United States and you're not used to that type of driving. The buses don't stop for anyone, so be prepared. I'm telling you right now, I almost risked my life going to an area along the Amalfi Coast just to try something I'm about to talk about. So anyway, the food, as you probably would imagine, was nothing short of amazing and, of course, full of fish, being on the coast. However, one specific dish that I did have on more than one occasion, and the specific dish that I risked my life to go get, was called the scialatielli al frutti di mare. So scialatielli are a typical pasta known in that area that are, let's just say, a type of short, thick, and flat, even similar to fettuccine. If I had to make a comparison to a pasta that most people do know, but not as long as the fettuccine. Um, and they are typically served with seafood like shellfish, clams, and shrimp, for example. And if there is one pasta dish to try along the Amalfi Coast, it is definitely this. They're typically homemade right there in the restaurant and is a must for people who enjoy seafood. The scialatielli, as they're called, almost give a little, I want to say, let's just say, rustic slash homey feeling because it's almost always what the waiters or waitresses would suggest when I asked what pasta I should get. They also suggested things like baccalà, which was also served with seafood, delicious. But the scialatielli, since they're specifically local and also because they make them right there, I had to get on more than one occasion. So anyway, remember, the key is to eat local, not only because the food tends to be more fresh, but also because it's part of the tradition. And you almost feel like you become part of that area when you do eat local. So anyway, speaking of being part of the area, another thing I have to mention are the lemons along the Amalfi Coast. They're enormous and they literally look like mini footballs. So like mini American footballs, if you will. And they're called Limone Costa d'Amalfi GP. They are a PGI product and they're most commonly known as the sfusato amalfitano. And as you imagine, they are used in quite a few recipes, like the sorbet that I had a few times and that I saw many people walking around and eating. Now, I have to say that there was a place that I did go to in the center of Amalfi to purchase a lemon sorbet, or sorbetto al limone, as it's called, because they were serving the specific sorbetto in like a big, giant, hollowed out lemons. So it definitely made for good content, I must say. I overpaid, but it was well worth it. And it also tasted very good because the specific place that I tried it at make actually the sorbet in an artisanal way. So that was also pretty cool. But if you want, let's just say, a less touristy experience with the lemon sorbet, you notice a lot of the little sorbet trucks on the side of the road as you drive along the coast. It's pretty cool. Anyway, a few other things that are made with the famous giant lemons along the Amalfi Coast are the dessert called delizia limone, and of course, limoncello is another thing. So the limoncello, I'm assuming that you probably know what this lemon liquor is. It's quite easy to find outside of Italy. Maybe the quality varies, obviously, but limoncello people typically know. But the delizia al limone is probably something that you've never heard of. It's a small dome-shaped sponge cake, if you will, that's soaked in a sweet lemon syrup and filled with, let's just say, lemon-flavored pastry cream or custard. The entire cake is covered with a light lemony scented glaze or even whipped cream. Now, I'm not really a dessert person, but this one I gladly had a few times. Believe me, it was so good. And the best part was that it didn't even taste too sweet, which is what I love about many desserts around Italy. They're sweet, but not to a point where it's too sweet. Anyway, all in all, it was a great trip. full of a ton of seafood and a great change from, let's just say, the big cities that people may be used to, like the Rome or Milan or Napoli or Florence. So it was a great time, and I highly recommend you go along the Amalfi Coast and even stay in a small area if you like quiet times, or a bigger area like Amalfi, not too big, but still big enough. In order to try delicious, delicious food. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stories of authentic Italian cuisine. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more insights and interviews. Also, feel free to reach out with your thoughts or questions on our social media channels at Stop Italian Sounding or on our website, stopitasounding.com. Grazie a tutti e alla prossima.